Hey everybody, welcome to the 2016 LoL Esports World's Top 20. We're doing it a little bit different this year. We've all three made a list, Spawn, myself, and Deficio. And also we have slightly varying criteria on how to do World's Top 20. It's a very exclusive list. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. What did you do, players?
So I based my list a lot on current performance, looking at playoffs, regional qualifier, so how good they are coming into the tournament and how well I think they will perform at the tournament. And then of course I look back at past performance at international tournaments and kind of compared it to how well they're playing now, or maybe how poorly they're playing now, and see if they will step it up, or I think they're going to step it up for the tournament.
Yes, Ben?
I think that I did something very similar, but in a different, I guess, order. I looked at their overall performance this year as a whole, and then what they had done at international tournaments recently, and then scaled it up to playoffs. I mean, if you're going to be one of the top 5 players on this list, you really need to have had a great playoff run for me to trust that you're going to do big things at this year's Worlds.
Yeah, for me, I tried to rank every player by position and then just look across the top line, say, who do I like more about this at Worlds? Who would I rather have at Worlds on my team here? And it is a little bit of recency. It's also about who I think will step up the most, whether they've been a tremendous player in the past and whether I think they can get back to that level. So there's no hard and tried true way of getting these things proper, but we have our lists, and we also have a few players that we omitted from the list. We're going to start with some honorable mentions. Maple and Ziv were on the list last year from the LMS, and they're falling just outside of it this year. Let's start with Ziv.
Yeah, Ziv for me is one of the most dominant top laners in his region. I mean, Ziv from AHQ is such a good top laner, but at the same time, he hasn't been able to consistently get AHQ in a winning position for me. They haven't finished first this year at all. They missed out on MSI. They were coming in as heavy underdogs, even making their run into Worlds, and they were able to get it together. And if you're the best player on your team, domestically, you should be able to carry your team to a winning position. And unfortunately, Ziv hasn't been able to do that enough for me regionally. Do I think he's a great top laner? Yes. Do I think he's a top 20 player at Worlds? No.
Yeah, I definitely agree on all the points. Also have Ziv outside my top 20 list. And I think also it comes down to, I think a lot of us kind of looking at LMS this year and saying, oh, the region is looking kind of shaky. The fact that Flash Wolves and HQ weren't dominating like they've done before kind of makes them look a bit weaker as well coming into this tournament here. So I think Ziv, while he's a great top laner, hasn't shown enough, especially here in the summer split, to kind of put him in that top 20. So he's just slightly outside.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing for me is the dominance within the region. I think Ziv should be much more dominant in the region if he's going to be a top 20 player at the World Championship. I think he should be up 5 or 10 CS most games against some of the bottom tier top laners, and he's just not. He actually has a negative CS differential in his own region. Last year, he was that dominant, and this year he isn't. So to me, that shows a little bit of regression, and for me is why he falls outside the list. I'm a little bit similar with Maple as well. I think he should be much more dominant. He's had pretty strong international showings, but then I look at his domestic play, and I actually feel like he's regressed a little bit there as well. Spawn does have Maple at number 20, though. I had him at 23. Why was he on your list?
Because he does what Ziv can't. I mean, he carries the Flash Wolves, along with Karsa. It's very much Maple and Karsa carrying the Flash Wolves to success this year. I think, they have finished first in their region twice. That can't be understated. He also had a very good last year World, and he had a pretty decent MSI performance as well, where the Flash Wolves were able to secure a top seed for themselves going into World. So, Maple does for me what I think you need to be a top player in your region, and that is consistently carry your team to the top.
Number 21 for me is Maple right
very
now.
Close,
just
clearly.
Outside, very, very close. Obviously, I think if you look at the entire year like you're doing, I think you're going to see a player who deserves to be up there because his MSI performance, the numbers were absolutely insane. He was solo carrying the team. Honestly, Karsa didn't even show up at MSI specifically, but he did. I think though in Summer Split, Maple has kind of stopped improving as much as we've seen in the past. I think other mid laners around the world has kind of overtaken him slightly. And I think it's also based around his region. The competition he's facing there is just not good enough. So that's why he's one spot outside that top 20. He's still a fantastic mid laner. He's going to have a good tournament, but I don't think he's going to be able to compete with some of the other guys we have on the list.
Yeah, a couple North American LCS players just missed as well. Jensen was 22nd on my list, 23rd on Deficio's. Spawn had him a little bit farther back. Why do you diss Jensen, man? What don't you like about him?
I think Jensen's actually a great player. I think that at his best, Jensen is an absolute superstar. But the problem is he doesn't always play at his best. And in fact, sometimes we get Jensen playing more towards, a 5 out of 10. And I think that inconsistency really does hurt him. So I think that, Jensen, he has the potential to go absolutely insane this tournament, put Cloud9 in a good position. In fact, I think he might. But at the same time, I've seen in international performances and, domestically that at times he's not able to do that.
Yeah, I just want to see him, get more experience, be a little bit more clutch in the very important situations. I think, he's kind of, I guess, in a way looking up to someone like Bjergsen, who has the same mechanical skill, but then become much more of a leader, much more consistent in his play. That's kind of what Jensen is moving towards. He's not there just yet. That means he's outside the top 20. Also under Maple on my list specifically, because I think Maple has shown he really can deal with these fantastic mid laners and deal with the best mid laners in the world. He just has the team who doesn't follow. Jensen does have a good team around him, but it's not enough to put him in my top 20.
Yeah, I think the consistency is what kept him out for me. I struggled a lot with ranking the mid laners, and I actually have Jensen as my 4th best mid laner at Worlds, but it's just a very exclusive list as far as this goes, and he falls just outside for me. I mean, I had him at 22nd, although I think the biggest omission we're going to have on the list is Impact, because he crushed so much in the regional qualifier and in the playoffs. We have him 21 for me. Deficio has him 20. Yes. Spawn has him 21. This guy crushed recently, but for me, he just missed out.
Yeah, I got him number 20 just in the list. As I said before, I base a lot of it on how well they played in playoffs, in the regional qualifier. I think he was absolutely fantastic. The guy had like 10 solo kills before 15 minutes. Yeah. Yes, okay, you can debate, was he playing against the best possible top laners? Maybe not. But he's so good on his own. He doesn't get help from the team. He's also really out to gank because he understands when to play aggressive, when to play defensive. So I think he kind of has the whole package now that he said himself. He's taking the game more serious. He's practicing properly. And that's why I think he's actually going to come in here and with practice in Korea, he's going to play at his absolute peak in this tournament. And C9 will do well, and I think he's going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, and that definitely is a possibility. And I think the reason I struggled with Impact so much and ultimately put him just outside is that no formula really fits him, because he had a very poor year. Then he had a great playoffs. And then if you take the big step backwards and you go to like historically, this guy's been an absolute monster at times. So I think that it's really hard to rate Impact. I think that he is great. I do think that his regular season should count against him, however. That's why I have him just outside. You know, this is a top 20 player list, and he needs to
now he's practicing.
He needs to be a top
red flag in itself, right?
It
if he
would.
wasn't practicing during the regular season. And it's not like I disagree with the important things you said about Impact there. I have him 21st, you have him 20th. Like, we clearly think he's very good. And we
Why do you hate him, Jeff?
That he's so good in the most recent games, but I think he's struggled in the regular season, and that's why he couldn't quite make it in. But that's actually all the honorable mentions we have. The top 20 players at Worlds are set. 3 top laners, 4 junglers, 3 mids, 6 AD carries, and 4 supports. We're going to be talking about every single one of them. Number 20s to number 11 is going to be on September 24th. The final ones are going to be on September 26th. We'll do a Facebook Live right after that to talk about all the things we messed up or to disagree with the community. I think that'll be really fun, and we'll see you then.